Today, I was in a meeting with my EOS integrator to look at the final draft of an expensive project that I had been investing in, both with my time and attention and financially, for the past 3 months. The problem is that the final draft that I was given was way below my standards. It was terrible. It was clearly written by AI. It did not include any of the feedback that I had given. The quality was low. And worse than that, I could not see how this product was going to lead to a return on my investment. I could tell this was unacceptable. And then I was trying to figure out how to give this feedback. And I was sort of agonizing over it. Oh, maybe I could say something like, I'm really disappointed with the result I saw today. This doesn't look like what we were discussing. And this is where my integrator jumped in. My integrator, who is not a therapist and is not a woman. And he said, you need to write to the CEO and just say, I don't see an ROI on my investment with this product. I was like, what? I can just say that? Right? Because that's what I was thinking. Like, show me the ROI on my investment. Show me the return on the money I've been giving you. Why are you sending me this product? But I am so socialized to not be that direct that it was hard for me to say it. And I needed somebody to tell me that it was okay to send a message that level of direct. I was going to say that, but it was going to be hedged. There was going to be some emotional language in it, right? I was going to go around it a little bit. But the idea that I could just say, there is no ROI on my investment with this product was just so freeing. And this is not an uncommon experience for therapists, CEOs, or for psychologists, or for women. So that's why I decided to record this podcast today. One thing that we know is that it is often very, very hard for us as psychologist practice owners to give direct feedback when we are unhappy with a product that we receive. And sometimes it's even deeper than that. We have a hard time accepting and being okay with being dissatisfied with something that we've received because we are so empathic. It makes sense that this is really, really hard for us. Many of us are women and we've been socialized forever to be nice and undemanding and to give everyone the benefit of the doubt. Oh, why didn't they get that project to me? Oh, it's because they were busy. They must have had things going on in their personal life. Well, they were probably really trying and it just wasn't that good. And we've been socialized to be very sensitive in how we give people difficult information. As therapists, especially, you don't say to your client, you have to break up with your boyfriend. He's awful. You're like, help me understand the thoughts you were having when you decided to pick up the phone when your boyfriend called, right? Like, we are not direct. We are trained to be the opposite of direct. And now here we are as CEOs, and we need to stop. We need a different skill set. And we need to be okay with looking at something that we've paid for from an expert and saying, it's unacceptable. It doesn't meet my standards. It is not worth the money that I've paid for it. And that is a lesson that we have to learn, because when we don't learn it, it costs us so much in time we spend doing the rewrite, the re-explain, the recrafting of the email. Have you done what I'm about to confess that I have done a lot of times, where I take an email and I write it very directly, and then I run it through Chat GPT and then also Gemini to see and make sure I'm being sensitive and kind enough? That takes a long time. It's a waste of my time. Sometimes it costs us just in energy, and it also almost always costs us financially, because we put up with bad work for so much longer than we should, than most people would, than most business owners would, than most men would. It's not good for us. So here are some ways that I have been really actively working on this in my own practice, especially this year. And here are some changes I've made. The first thing is that when I hire an expert to do their job, I come in with a clear expectation of what I want to see. And what I want to see is the kind of product that I was promised. I want to see their best effort, and I want to see a return on my financial investment. So when I was a child, my dad would absolutely help you with your homework, but he had some rules about it. He was not interested in seeing your first draft. He didn't want to problem solve with you if you hadn't been thinking first. If you wanted him to look over your math homework or your English essay, you had to submit to him what was the final copy. What were you prepared to give to the teacher? The thing you were already a little nervous about, like, ooh, like I've done my best because I don't want a bad grade. You're coming in with a little bit of anxiety. That's the version he wanted to edit. Your true best work. Because anything else to him was a waste of his time and it was unacceptable. So if you tried to hand in something that was like in the middle of being reworked, if he was in a really good mood, he'd say, nope, go back and work on this again. If he was in a bad mood, you would have to listen to this lecture about how he was annoyed that you wasted his time and maybe he would be unwilling to look at another version. That is how I want people to come to me when I'm paying them as an expert or a professional to do a task. I want to see their true best work and I want to make edits from there because I've already outsourced this project to you. I've already outsourced this work and you should have really tried before I see it. And honestly, I would like you to be slightly worried about whether or not I like it. Not in a like, I want to be scary sort of a way, but in a, I want you to care whether or not I think it's high quality so that I can say, this is amazing. Let's move in this direction, or it needs minor tweaks. And you do not want me to say, this is unacceptable. You're going to have to start from scratch. Like that's the standard that I want people to come to me with their work. And if I cannot get that from someone who I have hired as an expert, then this is not a good business relationship for me to be in that. And I also expect this honestly with people who work for me as well. Like if I assign you a project or we agree that you're going to do something, I want you to come back to me with real work done, or else I might as well have done it myself in the first place. And that's the standard I try to set. If I'm paying for something like Google Ads, right, or some kind of marketing, or maybe I'm paying for some sort of consulting, I need to understand how that money is going to come back, right? What will I get out of this in order to justify the expense that I took in? This is how actual business owners think. So I'm trying to think that way as well and sort of overcome my natural conditioning to be like, well, I guess they really tried. At this point, if I'm paying you that kind of money, well, I would care about results, and let's just be real. Second thing is that I'm trying to get more direct in my communication. I'm not going to be rude or mean, but I want to be direct about what I expect. And in order to try to kind of, again, circumvent my own social training, I asked myself a question that I'm not sure how you'll feel about, but I asked myself, what would a mediocre white man say if he received this? I'm not like criticizing men or white men, but what I'm really trying to ask is what would somebody with an immense amount of privilege, with very little skill and not very much interest in making anybody happy, what would they say in a moment like that? Because whatever I'm going to say is going to be way more sensitive than that, but I just want that like direct reaction. If I could borrow that and integrate it with what I was already thinking, then I will be so much more direct than I would be otherwise. Of course, the irony, right, is that my EOS integrator is a white man and immediately had a much more direct approach than I do. Of course, he's not mediocre, he's excellent. But I almost want to get in there with that, like, I don't even care energy. I don't want to be like, what does the most thoughtful white man think? I'm like, no, who's always kind of overcompensating? Let's get his energy in there. And then whatever I do naturally will be softened from that point. So I'm trying to be much more direct in the expectation setting phase. And also in the, when I don't like your product, I'm going to tell you directly that I do not like your product. And I'm not going to try to hedge around it a whole lot. I'm going to be polite, but I'm going to be direct. And that's a hard skill to learn. For me, that's maybe the hardest part, to be honest with you. And the third part is that if I'm not getting what I need, if I'm not getting your final draft and it's awesome, if I'm not seeing a return on that investment, I'm okay ending business relationships based upon that. Not because I don't care about people. It's not fun to have to end relationship with a vendor or with a clinician. None of those things feel good, but I am not willing to waste my time or accept work that's just not good enough. I don't want a substandard practice. I'm not going to accept substandard work. And for me, that is actually a little bit easy. I'm able to really separate those things out. I know it's something, though, that a lot of other people really struggle with. They feel a lot of guilt if they have to end a relationship, especially if it's been long term. And I think part of that is because there's anxiety, like, well, I'm not getting something good here, but at least I know what I'm getting. Or will this person think I'm mean? Or there's this other extenuating factor and I don't want to hurt anyone. Or sometimes it's the sunk cost fallacy. Do you guys remember what that one is? It's where you've already invested so much time and money in something that even though it's still not what you need, you just keep investing because you're like, well, I've already put this much in, so I'll just put more in and then I'll eventually get what I need. Except for what we know is that it's a fallacy, because usually the more you invest is just investing, and you're not actually ever going to get a return on that investment. So really thinking through, is this good for me and my business? Or am I just used to paying for this? Is this quality really up to my standards? Am I really getting the thing that I thought I was buying? And then being okay with saying in the kindest way possible, but directly, this isn't working for me. I'm so sorry, because you're running a business. And your job, if we zoom out, your job is to keep your business safe and profitable and functional. And nothing can get in the way of that, because that is how your business dies. And if you don't prioritize those things, then all those people who work for you don't have a job, including you, which is why you need to think about the general health of your business over your personal feelings or anxieties. All right, I feel like this episode was a little more controversial maybe than I normally go. But if you're really struggling, if you find yourself in what Felicia from the Good Therapist podcast would call like good therapist thinking, if you find yourself stuck here and you want to be able to go into things with a little bit more of an analytic bent and really ask yourself some tough questions, that's one thing I help a lot with in my consulting. I can totally understand how we get stuck. I can totally understand how we are trying to balance our communication. And I think it's an ongoing journey. And sometimes having somebody external to look at what's going on and say, you don't have to do that. You're right, this is objectively terrible. It's okay to just say that I'm not getting the ROI I need and to see what the CEO says next. And if you need that, I'm happy to be that person to help you. But I'm curious to see what you think about this episode. I hope you move forward with a little more confidence, and I look forward to talking to you again next time.